I have the bill here, Assembly Bill number 2943, amended in Assembly March 23rd, 2018, California Legislature 2017 to 2018 regular session, introduced by Assembly Member Lowe, principal co-authors Assembly Members Cervantes, Eggman, and Gloria, principal co-authors Senators Atkins, Galgiani, Laura, and Weiner. February 16, 2018. An act to amend Section 1761 and 1770 of the Civil Code relating to unlawful business practices. Alright, when I start reading this, I'm going to kind of break it down in piece and throw it into a flow to express what's going on here. The banning of the Bibles, it doesn't say they're going to ban Bibles directly like this bill is to ban Bibles. But it hints and it shows in here that anything that would try to push a conformity to a heterosexual mindset is prohibited to minors. That's kind of a little leak of information. So I'll start reading to save time. AB2943 as amended, Low, unlawful business practices, sexual orientation change efforts. Existing law, the Consumer Legal Remedies Act, makes unlawful certain unfair methods of competition and unfair or deceptive acts or practices undertaken by any person in a transaction intended to result or which results in the sale or lease of goods or services to any consumer. Existing law authorizes any consumer who suffers damages as a result of these unlawful practices to bring an action against that person to recover damages, among other things. Existing law prohibits mental health providers as defined from performing sexual orientation change efforts as specified with a patient under 18 years of age. Existing law requires a violation of this provision to be considered unprofessional conduct and subjects the provider to discipline by the provider's licensing entity. This bill would include as an unlawful practice prohibited under the Consumer Legal Remedies Act, advertising, offering to engage in, or engaging in sexual orientation change efforts with an individual. The bill would also declare the intent of the legislature in this regard. So keep in mind, this is intended for existing law prohibiting mental health providers as defined from performing sexual orientation change efforts as specified with a patient under 18 years of age. So keep that 18 years of age and under in mind. Section 1, the legislature finds and declares the following. Paragraph A. Contemporary science recognizes that being lesbian, gay, bisexual, or transgender is part of the natural spectrum of human identity and is not a disease, disorder, or illness. Paragraph B. The American Psychological Association convened the Task Force on Appropriate Therapeutic Responses to Sexual Orientation. The task force conducted a systemic review of peer-reviewed journal literature on sexual orientation change efforts and issued a report in 2009. The task force concluded that sexual orientation change efforts can pose critical health risks to lesbian, gay, and bisexual people, including confusion, depression, guilt, helplessness, hopelessness, shame, social withdrawal, suicidal substance abuse, stress, disappointment, self-blame, decreased self-esteem, authenticity to others, decreased self-hatred, hostility and blame toward parents, feelings of anger and betrayal, loss of friends and potential romantic partners, problems in sexual and emotional intimacy, sexual dysfunction, high-risk sexual behaviors, a feeling of being dehumanized and untrue to self, a loss of faith, and a sense of having wasted time and resources. Then we go over to paragraph G. The National Association of Social Workers prepared a 1997 policy statement stating social stigmatization of lesbian, gay, and bisexual people is widespread and is a primary motivation. Factor in leading some people to seek sexual orientation changes, sexual orientation conversion therapies, assume that homosexual orientation is both pathological and freely chosen. No data demonstrates that reparative or conversion therapies are effective, and in fact, they may be harmful. And then jump over to paragraph M. The American Association of Sexual Educators, Counselors, and Therapists issued a statement in 2014 stating same-sex orientation is not a mental disorder, and we oppose any reparative or conversion therapy that seeks to change or fix a person's sexual orientation. ASEC does not believe that sexual orientation is something that needs to be fixed or changed. The rationale behind this position is the following. Reparative therapy for minors, in particular, is often forced or non-consensual. The reparative therapy has been proven harmful to minors. There is no scientific evidence supporting the success of these interventions. Reparative therapy is grounded in the idea that non-heterosexual orientation is disordered. Reparative therapy has been shown to be a negative predictor of psychotherapeutic benefit. Paragraph O. In October 2015, the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration of the United States Department of Health and Human Services issued a report titled Ending Conversion Therapy, Supporting and Affirming LGBTQ Youth. Keep that in mind, youth. The report found that interventions aimed at a fixed outcome such as gender conformity or heterosexual orientation, including those aimed at a changed gender identity, gender oppression, and sexual orientation are coercive, can be harmful, and should not be part of the behavioral health treatment. Then jump down to Q. I'll go to P last. But Q says California has a compelling interest in protecting the physical and psychological well-being of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender individuals. Paragraph R. California has a compelling interest in protecting consumers from false and deceptive practices that claim to change sexual orientation, and in protecting consumers against exposure to serious harm caused by sexual orientation change efforts. Section 2, Section 1761 of the Civil Code is amended to read 1761 as used in this title. Paragraph A. Goods means tangible chattels bought or leased for use primarily for personal, family, or household purposes, including certificates or coupons, exchangeable for these goods and including goods that at the time of the sale or subsequently are to be so affixed to real property as to become a part of real property, whether or not they are severable from the real property. Paragraph B. Services means work, labor, and services for other than a commercial or business use, including services furnished in connection with the sale or repair of goods. Paragraph C. Person means an individual, partnership, corporation, limited liability company, association, or other group, however organized. Paragraph D. Consumer means an individual who seeks or acquires by purchase or lease any goods or services for personal, family, or household purposes. Then I jump over to paragraph I. Paragraph 1. Sexual orientation change efforts means any practices that seek to change an individual's sexual orientation, and this includes efforts to change behavioral or gender expressions or to eliminate or reduce sexual, romantic or attractive or feelings towards individuals of the same sex. So then I go back over here to paragraph P and pay very close attention to this. Courts, including in California, have recognized the practice of sexual orientation change efforts as a commercial service. Therefore, claims that sexual orientation change efforts are effective in changing an individual's sexual orientation may constitute unlawful, unfair, or fraudulent business practices under state consumer protection laws. This bill intends to make clear that sexual orientation change efforts are an unlawful practice under California's Consumer Legal Remedies Act. So, here's the deal. Okay, they already said that homosexuality with the youth is prohibited to try to change their sexual orientation by any means necessary, including goods sold and rendered for service. Then you jump over here to paragraph P, and it says courts, including in California, have recognized the practice of sexual orientation change efforts as a commercial service. So in other words, not only, okay, you take the Bible aspect of this real quick, and they're wanting to put Christianity and the Bible aside in the state of California and get rid of that aspect. Okay, that's out of the. We'll just pretend that's out of the way. Now, according to the bill, it says in paragraph P that courts, including in California, have recognized the practice of sexual orientation change efforts as a commercial service. This bill protects minors under the age of 18. The courts recognize homosexuality as a commercial service. So that tells me right there, since President Trump has been going after pedophiles, this bill is protecting pedophilia and makes it legal in the state of California, because in this bill it says that the courts recognize the practice of sexual orientation change efforts as a commercial service. So therefore, they are projecting that homosexuals are on the exact same level as prostitutes, especially minors, and you cannot try to change a minor's mind when they say that they're conformed to homosexuality or whatever. And this ultimately allows pedophiles to render whatever they're going to do without any stopping at all. That's what this bill does. It legalizes pedophilia while at the same time banning Christianity in the state. And with it legalizing pedophilia, it allows your kids who then get brainwashed by the public school system to be identified with the mindset of homosexuality. Then they can get pimped out and nobody can stop them. So that's what this bill is all about. If you want to check it out, go look it up yourself on California's.gov website, their legislative their website. So there you have it. This bill's got to be stopped, because if it goes to the Supreme Court, if it goes that far, and they rule in favor or bounce it back to the state, then we got a serious problem. So that's what I wanted to say. It's much worse than we anticipated. It's more than just banning Bibles and Christianity. It's a bad major problem, but it's a side issue in the bill. The core is legalizing pedophilia ultimately. And I'm not a lawyer. I found that out just by reading 2 paragraphs from the front part with the 18 years of age deal, and then reading the court part in paragraph P. So with that said, there you go.